everybody. This is Jason with the Cybertronian Exchange. Uh, Wanted to do a little intro video for y'all. Last week, I had the opportunity to sit down with Mike from Lockdown's Trophy Case and just had a really good conversation uh, with him about the review that I did on his products. And so, what you're about to see is a fairly unedited, um, video. I had to break it up in three parts because Zoom only allows me to record video for so long. And so you'll see a couple of skips. Those skips are literally the hey, I got to stop recording. So just wanted to explain that I'm not cutting out any context or anything like that. Very minimal editing because I don't know, I'm a nerd and I love this stuff, and I know most of y'all are right here along with me. So I figured I'd just give y'all the whole video. It's a little bit long, and like I said, I shot it last Friday or last Thursday, and today is Thursday, so I'm hoping to have this video up for y'all tomorrow. But it's just a real excellent conversation with Mike, and lots of insight and lots of good ideas. And for me, it was a whole lot of fun going back and watching it and just enjoy the whole experience. Mike is a wonderful guy. And if you haven't hit him up yet for anything for Magic Square, I suggest you do, man. The guy's work is fantastic. And I'll be purchasing from him more frequently. You'll see a lot more reviews on his work just because I enjoy it and I think it needs to stand apart. So anyway, without further ado, enjoy the video, and y'all take care. Man, I want to start off by saying that I absolutely love your products. I think these are genius ideas. I started off 3D printing with kind of the same idea, but doing more effects and scenery than accessories. But these accessories are top notch, man. I absolutely love it.
Hey, thanks a lot. I really appreciate that.
Yep. So just to kind of for the audience that'll be watching us, I'm fairly new to this, so I might, we might get off on a tangent or what have you. So please forgive me.
Yeah.
But I released a video last Friday and basically a review of the products you provide. And there were some questions that I had in there, maybe some things I didn't understand or weren't quite sure about. And at no point in time was it ever meant to be harsh or accusational or anything like that. It was trying to be what's the word? Not critical, but constructive criticism, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know the struggle of 3D printing. Lord knows, because if I was any good at it, I'd probably make a little money at it, but I'm not. So, I stick with what I know. I used to do this stuff for radio controlled airplanes, and Transformers was an original love for myself. And so I've kind of digressed into back to Transformers. I say digressed, I just kind of came back to it. But just a little bit of background on me. I've done Transformers since I was a kid. I'm sure you have too. And I built radio controlled airplanes since I was a kid. I did a lot of custom design work for retractable landing gear back when planes started becoming foam aircraft. They didn't have retractable landing gear, and that bothered me. So I started taking what was on the market and modifying it to work. And one of my greatest claim to fame was the F4U Corsair has retractable landing gear that rotates 90 degrees and folds back into the wing, instead of like a Mustang that folds sideways into the wing. And I developed a collar system, and me and my little Dremel tool, drill press, and just my hand tools at a workbench in my dining room of my apartment got to making those things. And I was able to take off, fold the wheels up, and you'd never even see them. And it just fly by and it look clean and slick. And so I just started doing things like that. And that's kind of where my hobby and my expertise came from. It turned into building planes for people, painting them, and just doing a bunch of custom decal work. And then over time, I think I just household needs took over. And I kind of put it aside, and I have never really picked it back up. And Legends class Transformers are a little bit more my manageable wheelhouse. And I ended up getting a 3D printer probably about 4 years ago, the CR10S Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And it does great, but it doesn't do the quality that I like. The lines are a little too thick, and it's very hard to get the bed level and consistently level. I feel like I have to re-level it every time I change filament. And I spent 4 months printing out 3 Devastators, and I have yet to put them together. They're just sitting there in pieces. I think I burned myself out maintaining and wasting God only knows how much filament. That is the extent of my knowledge base. You know, I have stuff to, my goal was to do things and make molds and do resin castings so that I could quickly replicate stuff instead of having to wait on the printer, because the printer does take a while.
Oh yeah.
But I have to admit, your stuff is so clean. Like I seriously thought it was molded, especially these wave effects that you have. I thought for sure those were molded. I would have bet my life on that. They're so clean on the side that we want to see. And the only way I could tell it was 3D printed was just a little bit of ridges on the backside. How on earth are you getting those that clean?
And well, and I'm so glad you recognize that. And first, let me just say thanks so much for doing the video on my products. I always get a kick out of seeing, you know, people on forums or on Facebook, you know, posting pictures of their collection, and there's a little something I made. But this was the second time that somebody had really done a video evaluating my work, and I really appreciated that evaluation, that constructive look at it. And you know, I was super jazzed when you started thinking, oh, are these molded? You know, they're so smooth, because my wife is sitting there watching with me and she's like, they're not molded. Why does he think they're molded? And I'm like, well, you know, they're so smooth. And you know, that's a design choice, because, and I'm glad that somebody got those and said, I love that the backside of these is smooth. Because originally, now you're familiar with printing with filament stuff that prints on a bed. All this stuff I do is done with acrylic resin, which is cured with you know, UV light. So it's kind of done in reverse. Everything hangs upside down. So you know, there's all the placement of support. So you know, your 3D object isn't just floating in space, because then it doesn't print. Like the print has to be connected to the ground more or less in the print process. So when I initially did the test print of that, I had it to save time, because that's a big part. And, you know, in terms of 3D printing on a printer at the level I print at, that's a big part that takes up a lot of print time. And, you know, every hour of print time is an hour of, you know, is the machine being best utilized for what it's capable at this time. So I'm getting off on a tangent because I'm excited.
No, you're not, man. That's right in my wheelhouse. I know exactly what you're talking about, because I was debating, like, do I buy 3 more of these just to keep production going?
No, but basically, to get back to your point you were raising, on those pieces, the initial test run of them when I was setting them up for production, I had them oriented in a way that they were kind of more or less laying on their side, and all the supports connected to that back side that you remarked about being so smooth that you thought it was injection molded. And it worked. It was a very fast print. But when I do all this stuff, I'm trying to do it so that there's this little post-printing work that I have to do before I put it in your box and put it in the mail for you. So when it came out of the printer, and when you take those supports off, as you've probably noticed in some of the products, they leave little, like, almost like similar to injection molding. You'll see like little sprue marks or little like mold seam flashing. So sometimes you get little itty bitty, like little specks of where the support was connected that just look humongous on an HD screen. But anyways, no, that's okay. It's all part of, you know, playing in this arena. But anyways, when I did the first run of that, the backside of that was so pitted up from those support marks. I thought, one, as a customer, I would never want to get something that looked like this. So 2, how much work am I going to have to do for every little set of these waves? So I decided against that and reoriented it so that all the support points connect on like the tail end of like the water drops. So unless you're like really, really looking for the little connection point marks, you would almost never know they're there.
I'm telling you, just looking at this in my hand, like, I can't tell. My eyes aren't good enough to tell. But looking, even knowing that you told me where to look, I still cannot tell. It looks polished. I mean, I would expect to see like a flat area that wasn't as lustrous as the rest of the piece,
Hmm.
but I can't. I can't, man. I mean, you did an excellent job.
Well, thank you. I try to do my best on every single customer's item, for every single order, because like all you guys, I'm a collector too, so I know what it's like to have that anticipation of seeing a product that you've ordered and now you're waiting for it to come and now it finally arrives. You know, every product that goes out in the mail, once I send it out, I almost have like this anxiety over it, like is it going to break in the mail, because that's happened before where like I've had a customer send a picture to me saying like, look what happened to your box, and it's like literally folded in half,
Oh,
and things have ended up broken, or
yeah.
one of the another customer had an issue with just from wear and tear of like using the object so much, like the connection point on one of the pieces had broken, so I supplied them with a fix for that. But and when you were doing your videos, when you started pulling out the grapple hook, I'm like, oh my God, please don't break off video. Because that's such a, like, as you probably noticed with it in hand, it's such a small, delicate piece, that, handling it and producing it and making it, like I'm sitting there putting these things together going, well, I know why Magic Square didn't make these, because boy, this is a pain in the butt to put together.
I was like, seriously, when I was unrolling it, and I was like, Lord, I hope I'm supposed to be able to do this because I'm going to try it. And all I could do is like, please don't break, please don't break. And when it gave a little bit of a roll, I was like, oh, now we're talking.
Yeah.
So I mean, it is such a snug connection, but I mean, I think it's necessary in order to be able to keep and hold poses because the wire's stiff. And
Hmm.
you don't want it to be loose. Like I debated, do I put a drop of machine oil on it? But would that degrade the plastic? Would that damage the connection? Would it make it loose at this point to where I couldn't pose it? And so I decided to I would rather be gentle and take my time and extend it a little bit at a time as needed. And what's going to happen is I'm sure I'll eventually just get it to where I like it
Yeah.
or a pose, and I'd probably keep it that way. And then I just rotate it out whenever I wanted to do that pose. Um, I don't feel like it's going to break on me. I feel like it's in good shape, but I do feel like it would be my due diligence to be gentle.
Yes, absolutely. And I try and always put the disclaimer in there somewhere that these are items you can play with, but really they're meant for display purposes. So just because of the nature of them being so small, you really want to handle them with care. And like doing the hands for Jazz, that was the first time I've done like a bulk product where there's a lot of delicate parts, all those fingers and the mushroom pegs. I did a lot of testing with materials, making sure I was getting something that had some strength and flexibility, and forgiveness to it for big adult size hands, that might not know that there's some products that they're not going to stand up to the same stress as like something like ABS injection molded plastic.
I will say that the hand plastic is incredibly smooth. Did you paint these at all, or is this all straight print?
Yeah, those are painted. They're printed in a almost like a translucent smoky black acrylic material. I'd really hope to be able to find an equivalent to or an additional manufacturer to the product I'd been using before COVID hit, was almost fully opaque black. I really could have gotten away without painting any of the black parts I printed in that stuff, because unless you held it up to the sun, you could not tell that it let some light through it. So no, all the hands on these guys, they're all printed in black material, but because it's more or less like a really, really like deeply tinted window almost kind of material. I wish I had some of it, like some test pieces laying around. But no, because they're so see-through, I do paint them afterwards, and then they get pretty heavy duty clear coat on top of that.
They're absolutely beautiful, and I love how the fit is into the socket for Jazz's hand. Um, as you saw in the video, I knocked the camera off, trying to undo the factory Jazz fist
Yeah,
from Jazz, and I
they're a
did
tight
that.
fit.
did you see my review of the Jazz figure itself? Did you happen to watch that one? Because I did it in that one too, like fully
Yeah.
knowing that I did it the first time when I did your review. I did it the second time too because, well, that's just how I am. I'm one of
Hmm.
the, it's like surely I will. It'll be easier this time. Whack, and off goes the phone. I was like, oh well, dang. So, but the way these pop in and out, they're secure and they go quickly, and I guess that has more to do with the softness of the material. Even though it doesn't feel all that soft, it doesn't feel flexible, but I can tell a difference going in and out of the peg.
Yeah, part of that's the material I came up with that I'm using for those pieces. Another part of that, and I think I may have messaged it or mentioned it in my message to you, was the mushroom peg part of those hands is actually made just a fractionless millimeter smaller than the Magic Square ones. So they still fit in there and they're still a tight fit so that the hands aren't wobbling around or anything, but it's that little extra bit of play that makes it a lot easier to snap them in and out.
No, I think it's perfect. It's done very well. The hands really sell the figure. Just being able to do the poses. I love being able to hit that hero landing pose.
Hmm.
Like it's so hard to do that with a figure in general. And the one hand that's up, yeah, man, that's fun. And then like the upward turn finger, like I did the shush pose with Hound.
Yeah.
I just stuff like that is just genius, and I love it. And it just lends so much more to playability with the figure because I do. I mean, as much as I like to just set it on the shelf and display it, I do play with these things. I'll find myself flipping them back and forth, just goofing around. I time myself on how to transform them.
Really?
Yes, I have a whole chart that I keep based upon Magic Square or New Age and my transformations. That's going to a different subject that I can share after this. I won't be including in the video because I don't want people to know quite just yet. But uh, yeah, I love timing myself just see how fast I can do it
No,
without
it's really
breaking it.
cool.
I think he's down to. I think I got him down to like 3.5 minutes.
Oh man.
But it is harder to go to vehicle mode than it is to robot mode. Robot mode, you pick up speed. Going to vehicle mode, you slow down a little bit.
Yeah, some of these guys, for me, I'm not quite to the point that you are. Uh, it's a commitment. Like I gotta make sure I got like a good 15 minutes. Like I'm waiting on a render to process, or I got something in the microwave. I'm making some lunch where it's like, all right, I gotta get this guy in vehicle mode because we're working on some design work for him. All right, where's the instructions? And now I'm getting to the point. I'm almost to the point my eye doctor warned me about the where you're getting over 40, so you're going to start needing glasses for small stuff soon. But some of these guys, their commitment, and I probably like you, and I'm sure a lot of other people, I really like that aspect of the legend scale figures today, just how intricate they are and what different companies are doing with the materials and the manufacturing processes that are available today.
Yeah, I agree with that. Like I was heavy into the chug scale stuff, and I would buy it, and then all of a sudden they start redoing figures, and then I found myself making decisions between do I get the new one or do I keep the old one, and then Iron Factory out of nowhere came out with their Ultra Magnus, and that was my first Legend scale purchase. And
Mm.
then Hasbro came out with their Metroplex, and I bought Iron Factory's uh was it Slammer and six not six gun. Is it six gun? Maybe no, it wasn't
Yeah,
six
I
gun.
think you're right.
Was it?
I think so. The duo for Metroplex.
Yeah. Yeah. Was it a six gun that was in there?
I think it's him.
Okay. So they're in a box somewhere. I since made a move and I have a whole bunch of stuff boxed up, but I remember I picked them up and I was like, man, this is genius. If they start coming out with more of these little figures to go with these cities, I was like, man, we could really do something with some scenes because I don't like the stoic, everybody standing in ranks and your shelf looks like a bunch of multicolored figures that just stand there.
Yeah.
I like creating scenes, which is exactly where your products come in at because I want to tell a story. I have some display. I have a display case that did I show you that with Triptychon and a whole bunch of Magic Square New Age figures fighting? I'll have to send you a picture.
No, well, yeah, we were exchanging some images. I think you might have sent me that one, or I'm thinking somebody else's, because
There was a Scorponok I did also that's got Galvatron and Ultra Magnus and a few others fighting Scorponok. So I mean, they're all kind of works in progress. I'll get in there and I'll change it up when I get a new figure, and then I'll leave it alone for a little while, and vice versa. Um, but anyway, yeah, I love being able to tell a story with my figures and maybe recreate a scene from a show that I liked or whatever. And again, your products just really hit the nail on the head for me.
well, awesome. I'm so glad to hear that, because hearing all that, man, you are the exact kind of customer that I make these things for. And kind of a big inspiration for it was through the COVID lockdown. One of the things that helped my son keep his sanity was he really got into building Gundam kits.
Yeah.
And for those out there that are going to watch this that may not be familiar with them, it's more or less a build it yourself, robot action figure model kit, but the accessories and the hand and detail options that come with some of them, it's just crazy. And like we were in a hobby store one day, and I'm standing there looking at the boxes as he's picking out whichever one he's going to get, and I'm just thinking, why in 40 years of Transformers do we not have a lot of this? Like the
Right.
masterpiece collectors, for the longest time, I kind of feel like they got to live high on the hog. Like they would get the extra faces, or they would get the blast effects, or like that one item that this guy held in an episode for 3.5 seconds but looks really cool, and you want to have them there in your display. Like those collectors really kind of had a lot of options there. And I feel like at this smaller scale, because things are so small, and small things you're able to produce a lot quicker, I just think, why not?
I agree.
To quote somebody else that does videos, dare I say, why not?
Right.
And I love that you say that you like telling a story with these, because I kind of like doing the same thing with my figures. And I have a big background in illustrative design and commercial product design, but my original love is like comic books. So when I set up my figures, I'm setting up a splash page where you got all your heroes doing something awesome, or you got your pinup image of this guy in his hero moment over here in this corner, and these guys over here, they're doing their thing. So I love doing that for myself. And when the technology just became really accessible to, not only can you just make whatever you can imagine, but you can also do it to a degree where you feel comfortable with saying, oh, I could sell this to someone else. That really just opened the doors.
Yeah, that's awesome, and I'm glad you're doing it. I really am, because like when Magic Square released their Optimus Prime and had all the hands and the axe and the blaster and all that stuff, and then they turn around and release the jetpack with blast effects with it and all that. I was like, now they're on to something,
right? Yeah.
And then everything fell off.
Mm.
Like Megatron came out with a ton of stuff, but then you got Trailbreaker that has a couple of things. I designed a shield for Trailbreaker that he holds up. In fact, I actually have it right here. So I have several different shapes of these that are designed. They're all translucent.
To do is force field.
Yep. So I got force fields. I've got purple ones for Decepticons. I designed a whole bunch of these. I have a whole bunch of little fitments that allow them to go to chug scale stuff. So it goes to like from a 3mm port to a 5mm port. So I have adapters. Like, sorry, I'm right up against my desk and it's hard to get in there.
No, that's all right. Yeah,
I have a whole kit that I did just because Trailbreaker deserved to have his shield and all that stuff. And I was like, what happened? The Constructicons, of course, came with their combiner bits, but there's no extra hands, there's no extra faces.
Not yet.
But Hound came out with a great bit of stuff. But here I am thinking, like, but what about his projection of that big guy? Where's that?
Yeah.
Devastator. I'm putting that out there for you, man. I know it's a long time print though.
there are so many big things I would love to do. Like Tidal Wave is like just a big goofy dude that I think is really cool. As you know, someone that grew up a kid that loved going to like air shows, and we have used to have an Air Force base right next to us. So seeing fighter jets all the time, like I love the idea of a transformer that turns into a big battleship or aircraft carrier. And now we have, you know, between the aerial bots that came out and the seekers and the coneheads, we have all these awesome little aircraft that, you know, I really wanted to scale aircraft carrier figure to like put them all on display, but I did the math, and as a scale junkie, I did the math, and it would have to be like, I think for the smallest aircraft carrier class out there, I think it would have to be like 8 foot long.
Oh my word.
Yeah, and I was like, honey, what do you think? And she, nah.
Dude,
So
nah.
nah, that's on the back burner. But yeah, I would really love to do some big guys. I think Omega Supreme has like such a cool classic. I don't want to offend anybody by saying simple design, but easy enough design to pull off that. I think that would be somebody to take an easy crack at. The guy that Hound projects, I've seen it done before. I know the models out there. I can't think of the name of who does it. I want to say it's the guys that do they do like chug scale 3D printed products, and their big thing is they have the license from, or they're an authorized distributor of like Fun Bee Studios design products.
Okay.
I can't think of who their name is, but they do great stuff. I always love seeing the stuff they design, because I'm like, I love seeing how they did it, because you know that might be an item that's on my plan of list. There, my list of planned items to do in like legend scale. Because you know, for each of these guys, like you know, like for Jazz or anyone, like I just did it for Ironhide, and boy, that was an undertaking. But to do all these accessories for any of them, like I take Jazz, and I'm like, all right, let's fire up TF Wiki and say, all right, what all episodes did Jazz appear in? And
Watch them.
you gotta watch them, just like, and thank goodness they're all on YouTube now, because I used to have them on, you know, we have like a networked hard drive here that we, you know, store all of our videos and movies on. And, you know, from like keying through the videos, like I don't watch it and like just sit through the whole episode. Like I'll tab through by like 20 seconds or like 10 or 15 seconds at a time, and look for like when guys show up, or, you know, who I'm looking for. And it's like, oh, let me stop and watch the scene. But when I was using our own videos for that, like going back and forth and getting reference art, like the file would get hosed up, and then the video player would shut down, and then I'd have to like restart the machine and go back in. But now it's all on YouTube, so I can just like quick flip through as I'm sitting here, like waiting on things to finish on the printer. But yeah, you go through these episodes and you see all these cool things that like one of the things recently I said, just in watching the episodes for Ironhide, the Negavator, like that big tank thing that just like instantly vaporizes anything. Boy, Thanos could have really used that instead of like hunting down all those darn gems. Like he just needed a Negavator. But even that, like watching the episode and seeing that item, like thinking, you know, a lot of this stuff I start designing, it's like, how would I do that? And how would I make that work for like the printing process and make it interactive? And you know, when it's a fun idea, those are the things like I kind of get obsessed with. And you know, maybe I know like that's not something I'm gonna be able to produce anytime soon, but you know, I want to have some fun designing it. So you know, it's cool. There's a lot of, you know, fun things all throughout the series and the comics, just alike, that you know lend themselves to you know making fun little robot people parts.
Heck yeah. So with Mirage coming out, you going to do the his cube that he puts over himself to disappear?
I almost feel obligated to, because every post I see anywhere, you know, here's everybody's product images. Look at the new Magic Square Mirage. There's that darn golden cube around him. Like, people are gonna expect it. I have a really good color mix for something like that right now. Just how big is it going to have to be, and then how's it going to hold up in shipping? Because you know, something big enough to block around him, like sitting here looking at, I got Ratchet and a couple of the guys over here because I'm working on stuff for them too. Just thinking of how big that would have to be, like that. That's easily going to be like a 7-hour print on the printer. So
Now, is that something
put that in there and
could-
tie up that space on the printer, and then it goes in the mail. And because really it's going to have narrow edges to it, because it's just like that, almost like energy cube taking form around him. You don't want it to be too dense or thick to distract from the thing. Like I worry about something like that really breaking in the mail.
Have you considered doing something like almost like an angle iron? So you have your long pieces that are 90 degrees and you have 4 of those, and then your top and bottom square are basically channeled to fit over that, but channeled to fit flush, much like the box is for Ravage. How and then ship it flat and unassembled and let that be an assembly component, much like how your blast effect is for this. So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you've already thought of that. These are things that come to my head when I think about it.
No, that's a really good idea. And sitting here talking about it, just thinking the geometry of the cube, it doesn't have to have perfect smooth edges. So, you could really hide your joint surfaces in there pretty easily. I think you might be onto something. I just might have to borrow that idea from you.
It's all yours, my friend. I'm all about lifting up the other guy, because at the end of the day, we're all in this for the same reason, and we all get to enjoy the same
Absolutely.
benefits.
We all want cool stuff, right?
Heck yeah. And
Yeah.
bright lights.
I really miss having Toys R Us around and being able to do it. But even just walking through the toy aisles at Walmart or Target, or any of your local department stores today, and thinking, there I am walking side by side with my 13-year-old son, and like trying to think back to when I was his age, what store was I walking through and what was on the shelves at that point? And it's just like, man, buddy, you got it made today. Because toys today are they're awesome what they're doing with these things. And it's really good to see companies starting to make environmentally conscious decisions, and how they're packaging them now too.
Absolutely.
That's a really awesome thing. I try and do as much as I can with what I do, because for those who don't know, resin printing, you deal with a lot of hazardous chemicals, and a lot of toxic waste gets kind of produced out of this hobby that has to be dealt with in a special way to handle it properly. So everything I make, I try and build in as much environmentally friendly aspects of it as I can to it, right down to the packing materials I use. One of the forum members joked about it with me. They ordered a bunch of stuff, and because you've got my products, but those who don't know, they come in a little white cardboard box. I don't have any assembled right now, so try and imagine it with me. But they come in a little white box. And inside you'll find a brown paper bag, much like the ones you probably carried to lunch in at some point. And inside there, every single object that you ordered, like one of these skis, will get wrapped up in a paper napkin, and they're all in there. So anyways, I had a customer, a friend, order a bunch of products, and then they sent me a message saying, "Hey, I got my package of drugs in the mail today. Thanks so much for that." Because you get all these little white parcels, and if you're not expecting it, it's like, what the heck is this? Everybody sends stuff with styrofoam and Ziploc baggies. And there was a learning curve to it though, because early on, like, I don't know if you ever got one of my Menasor back filler pieces.
No, I have not. Because I don't necessarily mind the way Menasor is currently.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
So I mean, I get it, and for those that want it, great. But I'm more inclined to buy the alternate faces, and I've been tempted before, but that was back before you switched your materials that you were using, and you got super good quality now. And I was like, I'm jumping off on this jazz thing. That's what I was waiting for.
Awesome. But anyways, that back filler piece, it's kind of like a half box in a sense.
Yeah.
So because it's so big and comparably, a lot of the other stuff I make is so small. Like I would wrap the little pieces up and then I'd stuff them in the back of the Menasor back filler, and then I'd wrap all that up. And like 2 out of 20 customers, I'd get messages saying, "Hey, I'm missing this part. This wasn't in my box." And I'm thinking, it's probably in the back of the Menasor. You probably, threw it away when you took it all out, if you weren't looking from it for it. So I learned from that. I don't stuff things in other things anymore, but and I just try to be, conscientious with that stuff because
Sure.
like I have 5 bins over there of I'll say contaminated alcohol that has like dissolved resin in it that really can't do anything more productive with it, and it's just waste at this point. So I have to take it to a local waste processing plant that handles chemical products like that and get that dealt with, because it's bad stuff, especially the resin too. You gotta it's so toxic for the skin and can be really, hazardous to people if they're not careful with it. Anything that goes to a customer, once it's been solidified and sealed, it's perfectly fine, for you to handle and use with your products at home. But in its raw form, it can be very abrasive and corrosive.
Yeah. I was looking at getting a resin printer at one point, and I still am. And one of the things it says on there, it has to be in a well ventilated area,
Mm-hmm.
just because of the fumes that it puts off during production and all that. But once you get past the UV curing, after that you're home free.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
fumes can be
cautious.
really strong from product to product, because everybody has kind of when I say product to product, I say the liquid resins you're using in the printer. So
Right.
different manufacturers have different chemical components they're using in their resins to give it different properties, and sometimes, oh boy, they can be stinky.
But one of the other parts I want to talk about, I get a lot of comments on this piece that I mentioned earlier, and you'd asked about the translucent nature. You can see the light coming through it from my ceiling fan right now.
Yeah.
I think this is the perfect amount of translucent material. Um, it it lets the light through just enough to pop into reality, is what I think I said in our conversation. And I
Awesome.
got several friends that have seen this, and they're like, "My God, that is my favorite piece."
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
cool.
they're like, I want to order just that. I mean, if I don't get anything else, I'm getting that. Um, and I have to admit, the sculpt work on this is genius. I love the grappling hook just for what it is and what it represents in G1. But this is genius as far as I'm concerned. Like the way the smoke comes off the back of the flame, the transition. And I take it all the gray is painted, right?
Yeah, that starts off in that translucent orangish yellow material. It's all printed one piece like that, and then I take that into my painting space, and I hit it with the airbrush just the right amount, so no two are exactly the same, and so that gives it that smoke, and I feel so nerdy, talking about this to like my wife. Like I get excited, like guess what I did. But somebody that appreciates the work, it's kind of fun. I looked at a lot of reference material, like images and some videos of like what does a rocket really look like when it fires off. So, and you see that a lot, how the flames just radiate into the smoke and just get swallowed by it. And I wanted to try and capture that as well as I could in such a small piece. And I'm glad to hear it's appreciated, because
Yeah.
out of the bulk of everything I did for him, the water effect pieces were a design triumph that I was glad to have finished and behind me. But aside from that aspect of that, making those my personal favorite, like number two would have to be the smoke effect for the rocket. And just that the corkscrew and the because that's a hard thing to capture in images, and I was glad to see it in your video. It translated very well to moving pictures. The corkscrew shape to it of the smoke as it comes out, and how it's still in that nice straight line, but when you look at it from different angles, the trail takes on different dimension. It makes it a really fun thing to look at and to play with. You just want to touch it and go, how's that work? What's that made out of?
I'm always fiddling with it. I love it. Like I've been doing it the whole time I've been sitting here. This is what I've been like rolling and looking at, and just it's fun, dude. It puts a smile on my face. No, I love
Awesome. And that makes me feel so good about it. Um,
The other piece I wanted to talk about, because I think we've covered, well, the only thing we haven't covered yet is the blast effect here, which that's pretty simple. It's the same yellow. We've covered it with the rocket blast. I think this is genius. It fits perfectly. I think I knock it off every now and again because I fiddle with it and I'll spin it and it'll just fall right off of my hand. But again, I think even in the video I said that's me bumping it, because the final fit and finish, like, it doesn't come off. So
Awesome.
everything is well measured and done.
Yeah, thank you. It took a couple passes on that guy to get that fit just right, to not be too tight, but not too loose.
Yeah. But the other piece I wanted to talk about were the skis. And one of the things I wanted to clear up is I had mentioned that it looked like a piece had been glued. Um, and it may have sounded like I was insinuating that maybe it was sent out broken, and I don't want to come across that way. That may have been my first thought out of a situation that happened earlier on when I was building rail controlled aircraft and buying parts. But that certainly was not my intent, because for all I know, that piece could be glued on. Your stuff is so smooth, it's very hard to tell where seams and joints are, let alone lines. So I do want to apologize for any insinuation that may have come across, or how the public may have interpreted that, because that was not my intent.
No, well, thank you. I'm glad you point that out. And one, I'm so sorry that your part broke at all. That's always the worst case scenario. Just because that people are ordering these out of a desire for the joy they expect it's going to give them and having, and then when you get it and the fits may be too tight, or maybe the material could be improved a little bit, or the design changed just a little bit to make that just a little bit better. That's always a hard lesson to learn, and it's something I struggle with on all these things I do. I feel like if anything, I get the most flack for well, Mike, you design a lot of stuff, but if I look at your Etsy store, there's really not a lot here. And that's for a couple of different reasons, but primarily because of the work that has to go into, from my perspective, the work I think that needs to go into it, making sure it's right 10 out of 10 times. And every single customer is going to get something that they're happy with. Another big part of that is just balancing. You can see the room I'm in. This is pretty much where I do 90% of this out of. So everything that gets printed is in here. Everything that gets cleaned after being printed, that's all done in here. Everything that's pre-made is in here. I've got a dozen green bins over here to my left. These are all projects in process being prototyped. Some have been seen, some have been seen yet out there online. So there's a lot of different moving parts to doing this thing. And when you got a team of like you and like 3 of your buddies that are into this and they're doing it with you, everything runs super smooth. But when it's just me, it's like, oh man, jazz is super popular. So I got, I don't know if it was you I told this, but I got over 80 orders within 3 days for jazz stuff. And not just, hey, I want a pair of hands for jazz. Like, oh, I want 6 of these dozen things you made for jazz.
Yeah, I know. I was one of those, like, I want like all of it. What's the deal for all of it?
Yeah.
You're like, well.
And when customers send me messages like, well, you made a dozen hands, is there a package to get all dozen hands? Like, no, because that's a lot of work for me. So
yeah, that was me.
Part of that gets built into the pricing model there, as it were. But it's just a constant balance of, and when it's just you, when you got to spend your time, like the Menasor stuff I did last summer, that stuff sold like pancakes. I thought I was going to buy a beach house because my Menasor parts were selling so good. I'm kidding, but it was crazy. I literally just bought my 3D printer and just jumped from selling little things here and there on Shapeways and getting a check maybe once a year for what I sold through Shapeways to, well, I'm going to try and do this at home. Like there's no reason why I can't. So I just got my printer, and like, you say, I kind of don't, I don't know if you said, I don't see the need for, the back filler, but, I was kind of the same way. Like, it's Menasor, it's a team of 5 dudes, and it's a truck with 4 limbs of Karma. Like they should be there. They should, like, and that's not to knock any customer that was like, well, I really
Oh,
want a back
absolutely
filler
not.
so that Motormaster can stand there. But, it wasn't an idea I was really into, but it was like, okay, people seem to want this. So I made it. And that sold so much that I literally spent an entire month of my summer last year. Literally, I would wake up, get things going on the printer, clean what had been already printed off the printer. And then while that's finishing processing, now I go downstairs and now I do my airbrushing and like hand painting of the parts. And now that batch is done. And now I'm going out back. And that was when I was still clear coating everything outside. And oh, is the weather good enough for that today? Because here in central Pennsylvania in summers, it can be anything from I could die here, the weather is so perfect and mild, to this heat and humidity is like an invisible blanket held on you by 20 Mack trucks. So it's always a wild card, but juggling all those things, and when you have a product that's really successful, that I'm very grateful that I sold so many, and it helped put more into doing this and developing new products and working with different materials. To that now, we're going to be doing a lot of colored stuff, and it kind of helps build on top of each other. But it's just that balance of what do I have to do today, that I'm obligated to, but now I have some time that I can actually like Ironhide. I'm really excited to work on the stuff for Ironhide, but at the same time, it's really daunting because if I did every single thing Ironhide has used, just in the cartoon series, like it's 62 different items.
Really?
62. And that's not counting hands, or like Ironhide's got a rocket launcher on his backpack, so he can do something cool with that. Like just the stuff he used in the show, be it a blaster or that man has the most amazing hands in the entire lineup of Autobots. And it's funny, I forget I think it's Chip says it to him in one episode. He's like, gee, Ironhide, is there anything you're not capable of? Because that dude shoots anything you can think of out of his hands. Like one episode, like shockwave, boom, you're glued to the floor. Like, oh, the one that always cracks me up is when they leveled the whole airport, and like it's like, oh, it's okay, we'll rebuild it, everything will be fine. Like these things you think of as an adult watching.
That's why we have insurance.
Like, where was OSHA here? Like, I'm sure they were not cool with this, but like, he's like, I'm gonna spray cement, and we're gonna spray some bricks, and boom, Bob's your uncle. There's a wall there.
There you go.
he's a fun guy, but there's just so many different things you can do, and thankfully, I've gotten to the point where I kind of have a rhythm. I go a rhythm or a cycle I go through, and I think you touched on it in your video about the products from your experience. Like you have a mail day that you go and you're shipping all your packages. Where me, it's like just because of the time it takes to produce orders and the stages they go through, I kind of have like I'll have my design week, and then I have my prototyping new products and printing out everything that needs to go out in the orders. Like that's my second week, and then my third week is all finishing all the orders, everything getting clear coated, assembled, glued together, and then being packed and shipped out. So that's like every 3 weeks that's on a rotation.
Gotcha.
And that's just to keep it moving and keep it going. Otherwise, I get to a point where I'll hit a roadblock on something, or like just prototyping something that'll be a real pain in the butt. Like, because every time I do a test print on something, I have to set up all those supports. And like right now, I don't know if you've seen, but like the Loot Crate boxes I'm working on that turn into display stands and different things.
Those are so
like setting up a prototype print up of one of those is like a 4-hour job, setting up all the support points. Every time the model changes, have to redo all that. So a lot of stuff is just really time consuming. But now that with a kind of a more or less work schedule to it, I'm able to have devoted time that I can keep this project moving. It's not that I got hung up on this aspect of it and got kind of burned out, not being able to proceed. And now oh, I'm just gonna start this other design because that's the fun new easy thing. Like the easiest thing is just to fire up the CAD software and look at some screenshots and start making stuff. It's when you start printing it and making it, I don't want to say manufacturable, but producible on a greater than one quantity scale. Like that's when it's a real time commitment.
Yeah, because then that plate's committed for the length of however many parts you have on that build plate.
Yeah.
And so then you got to find something else to do in that meantime, which sounds like there's plenty. I know in my world there is, like I'd have a part printing, and meanwhile I'm sanding smooth this other piece because I'm painting it and I'm primering it, and I'm sanding it, trying to get it down, because my whole thought was, at least with the CR10S Pro, it is not fast enough to produce chug scale stuff. Because I started off building filler panels for the Earthrise Wheeljack. Way too many gaps. I hated the gaps in the back of the car. I hated how tall the spoiler was. It should have been more narrow. I hated the gaps in the side of the legs. So I started designing all these little pieces to kind of fit together. And for the most part, it's done. I just need to sand them and paint them. But my goal was to let those be bucks to make a mold with. And I bought a pressure chamber and a vacuum and all the materials to pour the molds and all that other stuff. And then I think I just stopped. Like I got Legends really started taking off. I looked at the force field, and then I bought stuff to do Devastator. I bought all the plans for that gentleman's Devastator. I forget his name, but he's on Colts. And I bought all his Devastator plans, and I printed out a black and translucent purple one just from scrap PLA that I had sitting around. And it looked cool, but it was very brittle. It broke because I was learning about the print process and actually producing functional parts into a robot versus an accessory, a flat piece of plastic that I use heat to mold and shape, which is what the force field basically is. It comes out flat, and I'll take a hair dryer and a bowl, and I'll just set it in the bowl and I'll blow it until it's curved.
Oh, nice.
And so that's how I shaped my force field. So it wasn't a static, here's a flat piece of plastic. No, actually, they're out there in my display case, but I have a curvature to the force fields and stuff. But I think while I was printing the Devastator, Magic Square and New Age decided to tease their Devastator. And that's about the time where I'm like, well, there goes any money I'd make on that. So I just kind of stopped. I think the 4 months it took to print out the 3, I just stopped. And the other thing I've learned is the filament used to do this, especially on the thinner stuff like the force fields, it gets brittle over time and it's not as reliable. And I've broken a couple of my force fields just because it's like, well, maybe it's curved too much, and I'll pick it up and I'll fiddle with it and it'll break. And we're talking, 6 months to a year down the road that I decided to like, I don't really like the curve because of the way the bowl has a little flat spot at the bottom or whatever. And that's me fiddling with it. Not to say that once it's been curved and done, you're probably good, as long as you don't go back and like, well, it's been 6 months and I don't know if I necessarily like that. Probably better to just print a new one and go from there.
Yeah, and you bring up a fun, I almost want to say necessary evil of dabbling in all this that's putting time into developing something that somebody else comes along and says, look what I've done, and it's all done, and it's like, oh man, nothing is more defeating or takes the wind out of your sails quicker than having spent like months on a project and having the project being so close to the finish line that you're even showing it at like TFCon, and then like a month later, here's this company and it's like, well, look what we got. And that's so frustrating when that
I know. Then you're like, well, you suck and I'm gonna go home.
Yeah. Well, the side of me that's like, I'm gonna do this as a job and as a business is like that. But at the same time, the first time that happened to me was when I was doing the cassette robots and I had a whole line of them for DX9 Soundwave. To the point I partnered with the guy that runs Half the Battle Toys. We showed these at TFCon. Like that was the year. Like I'm going to be doing this stuff. And then like a month later, here's Magic Square. Here's our new Soundwave, and look at his awesome tapes. It's like, wah, wah. I was really like, I had spent like months at that point, like developing like multiple figures, and not only for Soundwave but also for Blaster. But so I was really deflated when they announced that. But as the collector of me, it was like they are pretty sweet. I'm gonna
I
want
know
them.
because it's like
And I'm so glad not to rub salt on anybody that's new to the Magic Square camp, but like I'm so glad I was able to get all those cassettes and I don't have to try and hunt them down after the fact.
yeah, the only one I didn't get was Laserbeak because I hated the practice that they did. I hated that they should have put all the cassettes in the set and put Soundwave on his own, and then they should have turned around and re-released Sound Blaster at a later date.
Yep.
And so that's the only reason I don't have Laserbeak is because I'm bitter about that. I think that's bad business tactics. It may have worked out for them, but I don't know. I don't buy into some of that.
Yeah, and I don't like that stuff either. I get why they did that. And
Yep.
like you said, it's a good money making decision. I think they could have done that differently. I think they could have split those tapes up with characters they made sense to split them up with. Like why Laserbeak didn't get paired with Megatron, I don't know, because almost every single Megatron out there gets a Laserbeak to hang out on his arm. And does that happen like what, twice in the series maybe? But
It's as
I always thought Laserbeak was going to come with
Starscream.
yeah. I thought for sure Laserbeak would come with Megatron. That made sense to me. But yeah, the way they split those guys up, yeah, that's not good. That's not good for the customer at Magic Square.
So now, do you feel that you have spurred a movement of accessories to be made by Magic Square specifically because their Hound came out swinging?
He did. If that's a feather I get to stick in my cap, then so be it. I'll go ahead and do that with pride. Maybe I should start making some better faces or more better faces for more of these guys, and maybe we'll see some really consistently good face sculpts from them. But yeah, I have noticed the uptick in here's some accessories with more than just like your top tier guys like Optimus or Megatron. And that's good to see because it helps us as first and foremost as collectors, but then it gets me thinking as as a designer, well, what can I do with this? Like your favorite thing I did for Jazz like almost happened by mistake, where I'm sitting there fiddling with his rocket launcher, his toy accessory that he never used in a cartoon, and it like pops apart, and I'm like, I could do something with this. So yeah, they did the rocket launcher, so I don't have to do the rocket launcher, and I'm really excited about that because like I did prototypes of Prowls, toy shoulder rocket launching cannons, and doing moving parts on an accessory that small for an assemblable thing with different color paint applications. Like I was not looking forward to trying to do that. The jury's still out as to whether or not those get included in his accessory pack when I do his. But yeah, I love seeing them to bring more to the table because it just makes me try and be more creative. And worst case scenario, Magic Square says, we gotta stop giving this guy any sort of business. We gotta give the people what they want. Here's 24 hands with every single figure and different blast effects for each of their 30 different weapons that they touched in the episode that they were in. That would just free me up to do the stuff I'm trying to build towards. And that's something I'm really excited about, filling in these little holes in people's collections. I love doing that, because that helps me learn and grow and establish friendships with customers and relationships with people that enjoy these kind of products. But I really am looking forward to when I'm at the point where here's an assembled manufactured figure or accessory or a display set. Growing up as a kid in the 80s and 90s, man, every intellectual property and toy line, there was a toy set for everybody. Smurfs had a toy set. My wife still has a little strawberry shortcake toy set that she had, and you just don't see stuff like that today. And a lot of guys that collect this stuff have these great display systems set up. they're so cool to look at, but you also kind of sit back and kind of ponder, like they almost take on a religious aspect as kind of like a shrine in our homes to like the
Right.
things that give us joy and happiness in our hearts. And I love that we're just so complex of creatures that we do stuff like that. But the way people set up some displays, like there's a couple forum members out there that just have some awesome stuff they've built in their homes, and I'm so thankful and so fortunate and feel so privileged to have little doodads that I've made for fun, show up in something that somebody spent a lot of time and love into putting together.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. I'm included in that group. I promise you.
Thanks a lot, brother.
So question.
But before we move on too much further from your jet skis, I did want to show you real quick. I have, and I don't know if you can see here, I have the latest and greatest prototype, based on what your experience was and what I kind of saw what the problem might have been. I have these new pieces here. Now, even because so many guys are going to end up with these, I'm now putting in like the initials on the inside of like the wheel well part. So when you have like 4 sets of these, it's not, well, which ones fit Optimus and which ones fit Cliff Jumper and which ones fit Jazz. Like the new ones, like this one says Jay-Z for Jazz.
That's perfect.
Jay-Z is the bomb. But anyways, you got Jay-Z and F for front. But you can see, hopefully you can see here, it is a super smooth and easy fit. So no more like tight, oh my God, am I going to break that? It just goes on there real simple and smooth. And also to show you and the other viewers here, you kind of touched on this in your video. And if I can see here, that looks humongous next to my head. Let me get my big head out of the way. So here's 2 parts of each of the 4 skis. So you got the ski here, and then you have the housing that kind of mounts over the wheel. So what you had been seeing in your product that you got and kind of touched on in your video was when I assemble these after they've been painted and clear coated, there's 2 little tabs here, and they have corresponding slots in the jet ski. So they'll get a little dab of like a gel super glue, and then they'll go in there, and then that gel super glue does a real good job of like filling in the entire joint surface. And then I'll come in on the backside and I'll take a toothpick and I'll just scrape away all the excess, so that kind of like smooths that over and just like really secures that bond in there. And then I set those aside on a wax paper, because real nice tip, super glue will peel right away from wax paper. And any noticeable, like you might get a little bit of almost like clear flashing, like on a molded figure where the seams are, you get those little nubs of plastic. You might see a little bit of, now you would never see it because I always clean it up. But there might be a little bit of like dried, just a little nub of dried super glue that's there, but that just pops right off. And then I hit those one more time with clear coat, and then once they sit for 24 hours, they're safe to pack, and they get packed up and sent off to you.
Nice.
So these came off the printer this morning, and I've been test fitting them on and off all day just to make sure it holds up. And I'm going to fire off another round and get those finished and sent off to you. And you should have those real soon.
Man, I appreciate that. I really do. I do want to say that the other 3 skis didn't give me any trouble. They snap on with authority and come right off. So it was literally the last one that broke as I was putting them on just to get ready for the video. And I think I'd put a couple on just to see how they fit and did. I put the front right and back right on just to see how they fit. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. All right, well, let me throw on these other 2 real quick, and then I want to sit down. I want to do this video. And I put on that front left one, and I heard a click, and I was like, uh-oh.
Yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah, no. And never like to hear that snap and that pause is like the collector's dread of, oh my gosh, I just broke it.
Yeah, it's like, did I snap the wheel? Did I break a piece of plastic? Did I break the ski? And then
what I really thought was it. I think 2 problems could have contributed to it. One, and I don't know for sure that this is what happened, but Jazz's front wheel is smaller than his rear wheel. They're off by like, I think, without pulling up my files here, I think it's like 1.8 millimeters they're off by. So unless you're really looking for it, unless you know to look for it, it would be easy to try to put like the front wheel one onto the rear wheel one. So I thought, okay, that could have been a problem. So I fixed that because now on all these, like I have an F for the front ones and an R for the rear ones. So, okay, problem solved there. The other thing I thought may have caused it, and let me pull out real quick my prototype, the original run of the Jazz jet ski. And I don't know if, let me block everything out here and see if everybody can see this. But where it clips onto the wheel, it's like two C's,
Yep.
So with the tightness of the fit and how little space there is in between the outside edge of the wheel and the inside edge of the wheel well on the figure, like I think it's like 0.8 of a millimeter or even 0.5. It's a really slim gap that has to fit in there. And with that grabbing shape being a solid curve, as it's going in, it doesn't have anywhere to flex. So what I did is, instead of it being one solid continuous curve, now the design is broken up with a channel there. I'm sorry, I'm doing everything backwards, and I'm only good at this when I'm shaving, believe it or not. But if you can see that little gap there at the top,
Yep.
that's where that C shape at the top and bottom of the wheel is now split into two. So as it kind of slides around the wheel of your figure, that gap in the middle allows those two teeth to spread out, so that there's less stress put on the bond point where it meets the main housing of the wheel mount.
I think that's really smart. I think that's going to work out really well.
Between those two changes and the change in material I'm going to do on that, these were done with a sturdier material because I really didn't, in my usage, I didn't envision like they would be under a lot of stress. And that's not to say that in your handling you did anything wrong. Obviously not. Everything I do has opportunity for improvement. So I'm glad something happened that I was able to learn from and able to put into the work to make a better product for not only you but everybody else. But changing the material to the same material base that I used for the hands, I think I mentioned in a message, the hands have more flexibility to them to protect those fingers, so that as you're like muscling that, well, not so much my hands, but as you're working with the hand in and out of the arm joint, your fingers are a lot less likely to break off.
Yeah.
So I'm going to use that same material in the arm pieces in the main housing piece of this, because that's where the connection point is, and that's where it connects to the skis. And I think between those three elements, you should have something you're a lot more happier with.
No, I think you have it solved, and I will definitely report back when I get them in hand, because I mean, that's what we do here. I mean, I want to make sure that everything gets, addressed. Whether I'm wrong on something, I'm happy to admit when I'm wrong or I've done something wrong, and at the same time, I also look for ways to improve myself, and I know you do as a maker.
Absolutely.
And
when it almost implied to you that you almost wondered if maybe it had been broken before it got shipped to you, I thought, oh no, because that really means I need to do something better if you're even thinking that. Because when I'm doing my prints for my orders, if I have a dozen orders for Jazz's grapple hooks, I'll actually print off and make 14, so that because I do all my painting in my basement, and as much as I try and as much lighting is down there, there are so many times that I go to clear coat or I go to pack up a product, and there's a nub there that really, Mike, that's a little unforgivable. We need to fix that. Or there's a little seam from, when I clean products, when I clean things that come off the printer, they go into an alcohol wash, and I use a metal mesh tray basket for that. And sometimes, depending on how vigorously I shake the tray, I'm getting better at it. But sometimes it can kind of rough up the surface of a printed item. And 99% of the time, it's not something that is ever bad enough that it comes through once an object's been painted and finished. But there's been one or two items like a Menasor face, like really something that every single viewing angle has to be chef's kiss perfect on that. Because when people look at their Menasor and their display, they want them to look awesome. So there have been a couple times where things are almost done, ready to pack up and ship off, and it's like there's some sort of blemish on there. I can't immediately fix it for the customer, but thankfully I made an extra one that I can just swap it out and get that out to you. So that's kind of my security policy, so that I'm never ever in a position of, one, I goofed up and I didn't write down the right quantity of items I need to make for my current run of orders, or two, I mistakenly broke something and now I don't have the stress of, I have to ship it to the customer by Monday. If I glue it back together, it'll be good. Or if I remake it from scratch as I would, or as you should, now it's like 4 more days are added on to the processing time for them. And you never want to delay anybody's delivery for them.
Yeah. Well, that's a really smart security blanket, I guess, or safety net.
Just one of those things that, with every run of orders or every new product, I try and learn something to make the process better. So like now, a year into it, there have been a lot of bumps and bruises and a lot of learning experiences that thankfully I've tried to be as cognizant as I can to say, to not always be like, you did a good job, Mike. You came up with this and it works and it prints and it looks good on the figure and now it's out in the mail. Yay, you. And no, it's always an endeavor to, how do I make this better? 'Cause I would love to one day compete with the big boys, or even work for them. And, that's the dream, to get to that point. And every one of you awesome people out there that likes what I'm doing enough to throw a couple bucks my way to have the thing you're missing for your guy. I just love you all, and I can't thank you enough for your support and your contribution to my future and my success.
Well, your work speaks for itself. It's very awesome. I absolutely love it, and your integrity is above reproach as far as I'm concerned. Your willingness to jump on this call with me and just to have a voice towards this, I think was imperative, because I really like what you do, and I want to make sure that you get heard, and that because you need to be able to focus on the stuff that you're doing, and you can't stop and make a video rebuttal to some joker like me that broke a piece. It's like, well, God, I hope it went that way.
I don't think anybody should ever try and, I don't want to say set the record straight, but I think the right thing to do is just reach out to the person that had a problem with what you've done and try and make it better.
I agree.
We would all just do better if we just tried and did that, instead of going, this guy, oh my God, this guy ruined my Friday with this video. Everybody's going to think I make junk, and the Postal Service gets everything wrong between A, B, and C. Not only did it get held up on my end, but they took it to the wrong person's address in your neighborhood.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I had just thought, like, out of desperation, like, hey, could you maybe ask your neighbors before I
No, you were right to ask that, because I mean, it happens from time to time. We have a postal worker here. I swear he's dyslexic. Like, he doesn't know which street's which, and he just starts chucking stuff in there to get on to his next stop. And I should have waited a little more time before reaching out. I think I was just impatient.
No, it's okay.
Because I was so excited and so ready to have these guys. It's pure excitement that drives my impatience at times, and I just want you to know that.
I'm right there with you, and 9 times out of 10, I know in my experience, being the guy that's sitting there waiting, I know that as soon as I reach out and ask, the thing's just going to show up. It's like when you go to the bathroom at a restaurant, your food is just there. So if I hit Mike up and say, hey, have you shipped that out yet? It's going to turn up in my mail tomorrow. So yeah, no worries there. Nothing to sweat over. I'm so glad it got to you. And You know, much love and respect for all of our postal workers out there, you know, doing what
Absolutely.
they do. I know I have a really good, you know, my post office regularly sees me. It's almost like I forget where the Andy Griffith show took place, but my dad would be able to tell me. But anyways, it's like small town around here, and they're just really overworked. And I know it's everywhere, and they constantly have signs up on the doors like, "We need help. You know, please work for us." But at the same time, it's odd because they also put like fine print, like not a career job. So as soon as we're done with you, you're out the door. That might be part of the problem. But anyways, I know all those guys work so hard, but and I'm sure it's other places too. I know for us here, we've gone through situations where we don't get our mail for like a week to 10 days, and it's just like they're so short staffed that they can't do all the deliveries. So I don't know if yours got held up. I had a couple other customers that their packages got kind of delayed too. I had a guy organize like a big international order with a couple different people overseas, and ran into customs problems I never encountered with them. Yeah, the whole jazz release was just wild. So I'm so glad to be talking to somebody about how much they enjoyed it.
Yeah. All right, man. We're gonna make this last a little quicker.
All right. Now, yeah, you're going to have a lot of editing to do.
Oh, I know it, man. I could talk about this stuff forever. I mean, it's such a big
I'm
part
right
of my
there with you.
it's such a big part of my childhood and my adult life, and it's just I'm fortunate to have a wife that loves me as much as she does to allow it to happen.
I'm a member of that same club. That is for sure. I'd be nowhere without my wife. I'm sure you wouldn't be either.
Absolutely correct. So, you know, there's a Skyfire that Magic Square is producing, right? Are you aware of their Omega Supreme that they're producing?
I expected it was coming. I was actually hoping for it because you know I'm a Decepticons guy all the way. But you know, if I had to pick a favorite Autobot, it would definitely be Omega Supreme.
Yeah, he's pretty awesome. I've got their I got the Hasbro's version and their original G1 version, and I think I even have the Armada version out in the barn.
I'm not going to get too excited though. I say this with nothing but love for Magic Square, but Jazz just came out. I feel like I posted his head tease like 2 years ago on TFW2005.com. Like, and I'm glad they're getting better. And you know, as someone trying to step into the space, I know there's a lot of logistics that go into it, but um, yeah, I'm not going to get too excited because I know even if they put out an image of what it looks like today, it'll probably be some mid to late summer next year before you know I am looking for that package to be delivered into my mailbox.
Oh yeah, definitely. How long did it take for the Stunnicons to come out? They teased those like 3 years prior.
Oh, I feel like that was like a running joke in the community. Like, yeah, that you know, it was like a vaporware figure, if anything ever was. Like, sure, those guys are gonna come out. We only saw the prototypes, you know, like way back when.
Yeah, now Fans
You're
Toys is that running
Cyclonus.
joke. Yeah, Fans Toys is that running joke now.
Mm. But you know, it's tough. I said earlier the design part of it, you know, firing up the CAD software and just making stuff in invisible space, like that's the easy part. Like getting it to the point that you're shipping out, you know, 2,000 plus figures in boxes around the globe. Like, wow, that's a lot.
Yeah,
My hat's off to every single company that is able to do that with any product. It's a lot of work that goes into it, and
no doubt.
you know, seeing that the guys finally get out their sub legends, I guess you would call it, Menasor, that started off as a masterpiece design, I think like 5 or 6 years ago, and they're just now finally putting it out in like kind of legend scale form. You know, my hat's off to them guys too, because you know, to keep a project alive and going for that long, and then have to kind of, you know, I don't want to say make downgrades to it because I love Legends. Like that's my bread and butter now. Not just like making money, but like you know, as a collector, you know, I got the entire chug line of Transformers Prime Decepticons. I got my toes wet in Masterpiece for a little bit because I was like, if I'm going to be an adult toy collector, I should probably be buying expensive toys because then you can justify it just a little bit. But I quickly started running out of space with those, and then DX9 showed up with like, here's a super awesome Devastator that's like 8 inches tall. Like, that's awesome. You know, at that point in my life, I'm there working in a cubicle, and I'm like, look at all the space I have here. You have Devastator here, here's Superion, Optitron can make appearance. Oh my god, if we could finally get a good Legends Mega Supreme, yeah, that would be awesome. And I'm really looking forward to their eventual take on him. And I don't want to rile anybody's tribalistic feathers in saying this, anybody that likes New Age figures, but I think some Magic Square Dinobots they're going to be home runs for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
The big beefy bots that they're making anymore, like you combine that with the Dino aspect, they just have to be the right size. That's all that'll be the key factor.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I have the DX9 Dinobots, and I've passed on New Age's Grimlock. I have a mixture of New Age and Magic Square. I like both of them. Some have better design aesthetics than others. And I mismatch. Like I have Ratchet and Ironhide from New Age, and they're absolutely perfect as far as vehicle mode is concerned.
Oh yeah.
Robot mode's pretty cool, but it has some refinements due to its age of design. And I feel like Magic Square's kind of hammered that design as far as the robot's concerned, but they're too tune accurate for me on the alt mode. And I feel like
there's no touch in New Age's alt modes, man. They are just so real world. Like they really found the sweet spot for the amount of detail at this scale of just finding that point of not being too much, but still like, holy cow, I can't believe they worked that in there.
Well, you're nicer than I am. I'm a little bit more of a hater because I feel like they're
on New Ages?
On New Age, yeah. Because I feel like their Constructicons their alt mode is weak. And I feel like their Hound is weak. You know,
I think New Age kind of rushed that one out a little bit. I think they felt the pressure of, if everybody else buys Magic Squares, they might not ever buy ours. And for better or worse, I know some people that really love that Devastator design because you can't argue against it. Like it has stepped out of the animation cell, warts and all. Now, the reason I prefer the Magic Square design is because I feel like Magic Square looked at those warts and took a big old magic eraser and went,
"Yep, I'm with you."
They fixed it all up. There's just no bad direction to look at Magic Square's Constructicons or their Devastator. It's just that thing, nightmare to like move around and transform and to assemble. But
got them right here.
And like that's another set that I'm slowly but surely working through the things I'm working on for them, and just the amount of times I've gone back and forth between the different modes. I could probably do it in my sleep at this point, but I really would not want to because that set is a complex set. And their designer over at Magic Square, holy cow. I'm not surprised that they call him the Lizard because the stuff that dude is doing, like every other figure that comes out from them, I just see something where I'm like, I don't know how they ever thought to do that. I don't know where their starting point is to get to this marvel of pocket-sized engineering, but I'm sure as heck glad they're doing it. And one day I'm going to hope to compete with it.
Well, their Omega Supreme looks pretty good from the prototype pictures I saw. I just saw a head and the shoulders, and the tracks coming off the back, and that was about it.
Is this new, like out today in the past day or two?
No, it came out back at the beginning of summer when I say beginning of summer. I guess it was about around June. I think is when it came out the same day or the day after the Jetfire tees came out.
Okay. You're catching me slipping. That's a while ago. I should be on top of that.
That's all right. That's all right. You've been a busy man. You've been hard at work.
They're getting hard to keep up with too, because here's Jazz and then boom, Ironhide, boom, Ratchet, surprise, here comes Mirage. And I'm just like, please slow down.
Well, I feel like they've kind of hit their stopping point because we got Mirage coming, and then the next figure we know about is Jetfire. and then Omega Supreme. And those two prototypes both look very roughed in. So I imagine we probably have a good 6 to 9 months break before something else comes, unless something is just hiding out there. I feel like we'll probably get some more repaints.
Yeah.
I'm hoping for a clear version of Mirage. Because if they
And
get
Skywarp, let's get a mid warping Skywarp figure from Magic Square where he's translucent purple.
yeah, that would be really nice because I have the DX9 jets. I didn't upgrade any of my jets to New Age or Magic Square because Magic Square basically took DX9's design, and New Ages are just way too pricey. And
Yeah.
so I don't, if I don't feel like the figure is an upgrade, then I'm not going to get it, which is why I don't have Grimlock yet, because I don't feel like it's an upgrade enough from the original DX9 Grimlock. There's a lot of exposed panels and transforming bits that really just don't clean up well for me. And that's where my hope is that Magic Square will fill that gap.
Yeah.
The other flip to that is I am done buying one piece figures that are part of a team and stressing on if the other 4 or 5 are coming out. So, great, you did a Grimlock. What do the other 4 look like? Oh, you don't have them yet? Well, I'll wait.
Yeah.
Because
it's kind of like the knockoff gamble. Like, do I start collecting this line of knockoffs, or do I accept the fact that not everybody's going to get made?
Well,
yeah.
I blame Fans Toys for that because I have 4 of the 5 Stunicons waiting. And it has halted my display that I was working on with Masterpiece figures, that and their Blitzwing. So I blame them for that. And even though it's legend scale and it's not as much skin in the game, these still are, I'd still be disappointed either way.
Oh, yeah.
Of the price.
Yeah. Well, they're not getting any cheaper. That's for sure.
No, but I think that their Magic Square is a little bit more realistic with what they're offering cost wise. New Age throws a lot of unnecessary die cast in it, and I think it hinders the figure. And that's my personal opinion. And to anybody that disagrees, hey, look, if you love it, then you love it, because I've got my fair share of, Magic Square. I got Magic Square figures sitting here the same as I do or New Age, the same as I do my Magic Square. So, I'm not shy about buying something I like, but I also am going to, if I
are you going to get Magic Square's Mirage?
Yeah, it's already on order. They opened their new store, and I actually
I'm excited about that.
So, normally I have a couple of e-tailers I buy from religiously, and but Magic Square, I joined their online store on Facebook, and I went to their shop, and I went ahead and I said, okay, I want to order from them for a change, just to see how it goes. I mean, whether I ordered from them or the e-tailers, I was spending the same either way. So, but I'm just curious how direct from their store is going to turn out.
Yeah. Mirage is the last guy I have pre-ordered with anybody, so I'm pretty sure after him, I'll be looking to try them out, do business directly with them, and try and support them, because they seem very engaged in communicating with the Western market, as it were, and trying to listen to fans here and hear what they want. And I'm the guy that even if I'm the only one, I will bang on the door till the end of time asking for a G1 Barricade repaint of Prowl. That would make me so happy. But yeah, I think that direct customer engagement is how we're going to get to doing stuff like that. Even getting a set of Rainmakers, that would be great to get those guys from them. I would love that. I don't know what it is with them and not wanting to do all the repaint candy you can do. I don't know if it's a funding issue for production runs with them, or if they kind of like frown on that from a design aspect. I don't know. But as a collector, I want my Seeker in every color of the rainbow and pastels too, if I can, please. And thank you very much.
Yeah, well, I'm hit or miss on that. I don't do a lot of repaints. My favorite character is Wheeljack, so they don't really do too many repaints of him. You get an exhaust, and that's about it. And I have those from what was it? Wasn't Generation Toys? What was it?
Was it Toy World?
Toy World. Thank you. Yeah, Toy World ended up doing their Wheeljack and exhaust, and they did so many colors, and I was adamant that I wanted to collect them all.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they
And
were like, yeah, we're the first guys on the block with the little wheel jack. You guys
yeah,
are getting this in every color you can think of.
I couldn't find any of them. Like none of the colors ever came up for sale in any markets that I could find. All I could find was the Italia one, the dirty Italia one, and then the exhaust version. Those are the only three that ever came up in any of the stores that I haunt.
Mm.
And so, which I'm fine with that. That's fine. It kept me from overbuying because I was going to overbuy. But other than that, like the Seekers, I'll get the main six, and that's about it because that's what I knew from the show. I wasn't really
Yeah.
into the comics when I was a kid. I didn't have access to them. And then all these characters that are created after the fact, to me, I see it as a repaint to make money off the same mold.
Hmm.
And so the adult of me goes, "You already have that figure, silly."
Yeah.
And so I
Am
don't.
I buying this guy just so he can stand next to this other guy that he kind of goes with, or am I buying him because I really like this guy and even though it's the same figure, I'd really like it in his colors.
Right. That's the whole reason why I didn't get Sound Blaster from Magic Square. But in the same breath, I have all three of New Age's Dotson brothers.
Yep.
So,
Hey,
it's like,
on Sound Blaster though, I was never a Sound Blaster guy, but when I got him in hand, like there's just something awesome about that color combination on Soundwave.
is it?
Yeah, I don't know that I'll ever like have it out of the box for more than anything other than to check and see if I left an accessory in there. But I'd like to I call him the Batman Soundwave because he's got that Keaton Batman color scheme going on.
So another question for you on your design. Do you ever look at the future of figures that you hope they produce and start designing accessories on the back end just to have on tap?
Ooh, that's a really good question. I don't start designs. I think of stuff like things I would like to make to go with, like Grimlock or Snarl or Christ, if we ever get a decent legend scale lockdown, I would be tickled pink. Nothing against Iron Factory. I just don't like the samurai design flair. But
Yeah, same.
in doing this stuff, like it really is. I can't stress it enough. And if it's one thing I hope anybody takes away from this video, it's just doing this takes such a time commitment to be able to do anything just to make parts for 3 other people, let alone 100 or however many want to order your stuff from you. So like I have dream projects I would love to see through to fruition, but because I don't really think there's a market there for it, or it's not feasible to produce yet, or I'm just not at the skill level yet, I kind of have to say, well, what's working right now? And like, I'm trying to think of a really good case in point because I just kind of shuffled everything around. Oh, the Insecticon figures that I developed. I did a G1 version of Black Arachnia in the New Age Insecticon scale, as well as I did Venom in that same scale. And my plan is to do them all. But from my production standpoint, I would not want to sell you any figure that I would make just yet, because like I did test prints on my Rosanna design or Flipside's design coming out for Magic Square Soundwave and Mech Fans Toys Blaster, and like the joint work just is not there yet. So I got some new materials I'm going to be working with on this soon. But back to the point I'm trying to make, like just knowing that I couldn't produce something like that to a good enough quality that I would feel comfortable sending out the door to somebody in exchange for money that they've worked for somebody for, I kind of have to set those things aside and say, Ironhide just came out. There's 60 plus things for Ironhide I can make. So I gotta get cracking because Ironhide's fresh and new, and people want their little like his drill gun. He's got this super cool drill gun that I had to keyframe through several times just to figure out where it came from, because it like pops out of his arm and then it mass shifts and expands and he just goes drilling away. But just like filling the immediate need that's there versus like two of my favorite Transformers characters that have come out recently are Anode and Lug from the IDW comics. There's such a cool concept of characters, and I really love like just a series of comics that follows them on their archaeological adventures through Transformers time. And I started making an Anode figure, but I got probably like halfway through it, and like the other stuff that people were really into, like me doing, was kind of piling up, and it's like, I'm really only making this for myself and like the handful of other people out there that, you know, like this character. So let me just put that on pause, and that'll be like, you know, a rainy day project someday, or like, you know, if I'm just trying to fill some time, like this week, I had like 3 hours. I had to wait for something to finish on the printer, and somebody was looking for a replacement of the reflector accessory that came with Magic Square Seekers, so that Thundercracker can do his little picture moment. And I had 3 hours to kill. I was like, well, let me just design one. And you know, I have this cool mix of purple, you know, material that I've come up with that's going, that'll be what the loot crates are done in. Let me just fire off a bunch of these, and you know, so this guy can get the part he's looking for. And it's something that I was able to do constructively with my time, and hopefully make some other people happy with. But yeah, there's stuff like that all the time, where it's, I'd really love to do it, love to spend the time on doing it, but if I spend the 6 weeks designing a tidal wave that I won't be able to produce for the next 3 years, that 6 weeks I'd spent doing nothing I'm going to make any income on or any capital to put into the production of new stuff on. So I kind of, you know, constantly got to, you know, kind of pull back the leash on myself, as it were, and say, all right, kind of get focused here. You know, what's your project plan or your business plan? And you know, like I mentioned earlier, like every single product I put out or like release I do is a stepping stone to something else in some sort of way. And if I don't stick to that, I kind of get sidetracked and lose that momentum, and I just don't want to do that.
Yeah, that's understandable. Well, Mike, I think that's all I had to ask. I've said it before. I could go on for hours and just keep talking, because it's great to be able to talk with fellow fans. I have people I've met online just from selling and trading figures that have actually become like brothers to me. And you'll hear me mention them sometimes in my video, like Tony or James. And you know, I feel like you know, I do really well at times. This fandom's awesome, and it's full of great people. And I'd like to just say that I think that you're an awesome person, and your design work is fantastic.
Wow, thanks,
I'm
man.
grateful that you're a part of this community.
Well, thank you so much. That means the world to me. That on it from the bottom of my heart, that's the highlight of my day. And Mom and Dad, I hope you're not watching, but I spent time with my parents today, so. And you had a high bar to reach, but you did it. That's the highlight of my day right there, and that's why I do this. You know, more than anything else, like I'm thankful for the privileged and the very supportive network of people I've had around me in my life that been able to do some very amazing, very cool things that I'm very, you know, happy to be able to look back upon. Yeah, but the joy and the happiness that I see people get out of this hobby of mine, that's the real reward, and that's the real paycheck. So, you know, thank you again for your support and for your patronage, and everybody out there that's bought something from me or is thinking of buying something from me. Thank you for your support. And I love every single idea everybody throws at me. I apologize that I cannot make every single thing, but I definitely do not think of everything. Just like earlier you said, have you thought about doing Mirage's, you know, invisibility cube this way? That's a great idea. I probably, you know, that was just a project I was like, yeah, I'm not putting that in a box and sending that off in the mail and getting crushed. I'm not doing that. Plenty of other Mirage things to do. But yeah, great ideas like that. I need them. And you know, when it's something feasible enough, it gets made, and then it ends up in your hands instead of just in your head. So keep those ideas coming, and you know, thank you again for having me on here to talk to you. And I hope your channel goes really well, and that's so cool that you're stepping into this space and trying this out. So I really look forward to seeing what you do too.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. And I really appreciate you taking the time tonight. And it's been an absolute pleasure talking with you. And I look forward to more conversation in the future.
Awesome, man. Well, you take care and have a good night.
You too, Mike. See you later.
See ya.
Bye.